If someone had told me before that an AI model was developed just to make other models look good, I wouldn't have really believed it. But after this model came out, I feel like I have no choice but to believe it. And this model isn't just some random creation, it definitely comes from a prestigious background first. Let's look at its parameter size, 80 billion. Based on this parameter count, if you wanted to deploy it locally, you would need at least 176 gigabytes of hard drive space just to download the model. Then, to run it, you would need 380 gigabyte graphics cards. Seeing this, many of you might have already guessed it. This model is the recently high-profile Tencent Hunyuan Image 3. I have to admit, I approached testing this model with a great deal of respect. I carefully read its prompt writing documentation and watched its promotional video, which was over an hour long. I designed 22 prompts, focusing on the areas where Hunyuan Image 3 claims to excel, and began today's test. Since we're testing a model, we need a benchmark for comparison. For this, I chose the open source model that everyone is quite familiar with QW with. We all know that within the open source community, Qwen Image is excellent at image generation, composition control, and text rendering. I built the workflow for this test on RunningHub. You can access this platform at RunningHub AI. RunningHub is an online CompuAI workbench I frequently use because it is always the first to integrate new technologies and extensions as soon as they appear. You can register using the invitation link in my video description to receive 1,000 free credits. Additionally, you get 100 bonus credits for logging in daily, which allows you to experiment with your own workflows. The test workflow we're using today is the standard Qwen Image workflow provided by CompuAI's official team. The main model we're using is a quantized FP8 version. In terms of performance, this means it is a compromised version compared to the original Qwen Image model. On the other hand, I ran Hunyuan Image 3 directly on its official website, so it was running at its full uncompromised potential. So, what were the results? Let's take a look together. Our first scene was designed to test compositional complexity. We prompted for a girl in Hanfu clothing, releasing a calming lantern with a dragon-shaped pattern in the background, all set against a cyberpunk city. When I saw the result from Hunyuan, I had a bad feeling. The image lacks clarity and looks hazy. This is a major flaw. No matter how strong its composition, text rendering, or even logical reasoning is, the fundamental quality of the image generation must be guaranteed. It generated 2 images, and both had this whitish, foggy feel. Now, let's look at Qwen Image's performance. As you can see, all the basic elements are present. The lantern might not be a perfect calming lantern, but we can see the overall image clarity, the cyberpunk feel, the dragon pattern, and the character rendering are all fantastic. I think Qwen Image did a great job here. The next example is an astronaut sculpted from glass. The reflection of Saturn's rings is visible on its helmet, and nebulas seem to flow inside its body, all against a pitch-black space background. Hunyuan's texture work is fine, and the Saturn nebula is decent, but does anyone else feel that it just doesn't look good? It just feels odd, lacking any real visual appeal. Now let's look at Qwen Image's version. The overall glass texture is much better than Hunyuan's, and while the background is black, it shouldn't be completely empty, which Qwen handles better. In this test, Qwen Image is the clear winner. Next up is a poster, or more accurately, an invitation card to test text rendering. It features a crystal brain with text on it. I must say, Hunyuan Image 3's text design and accuracy are excellent here. But let's look at Qwen Image's performance. It is also fantastic. There's even a chip in the center of the brain. In terms of text design, I think Qwen Image might be slightly better. The text at the bottom is mostly correct, though there is a small error which might be related to the FP8 model compression. Overall, I personally prefer Qwen Image's poster. This next scene is something Hunyuan claims to be good at, 4-panel or 6-panel comics, which they've mentioned multiple times in their promotional videos and documentation. This is a 4-panel comic about a small cat. In the first panel, it is looking out the window at the rain. In the second, it feels a bit down. Third, a little girl comes and picks it up. And in the fourth, it is in the girl's arms looking content and safe. Hunyuan's performance is good, as expected for something it specializes in. But what about Qwen Image? I think this one has more charm. It's not just 4 rigid squares. It looks more like a page from a comic book, more flexible and dynamic. In this test, I believe Qwen Image performed better. Here's another character, this time a beautiful woman in a long trench coat, standing on a wet Tokyo street with neon lights and reflections. Again, Hunyuan's image lacks that clear, transparent feel. The colors just feel a bit off. However, the environmental rendering is pretty good, especially the details like the texture of the raincoat. but it gives me the strange impression that it is made of plastic. I don't know if you feel the same. Now, for Qwen Image, its composition is more dynamic and much clearer. Its only downside is that it doesn't really capture the feel of raindrops hitting the raincoat. This is actually a feature Hunyuan Image has been highlighting its fine-grained rendering capability. Next, a close-up of a model's face, focusing on her blue pupils, which reflect a blooming cherry blossom. A single glistening teardrop hangs from her eyelashes. Let's see Hunyuan Image 3's result. It is very beautiful. The skin detail is impressive, as is the cherry blossom reflection. Now for Qwen Image, I think Qwen's version is even better. You can see the skin texture, the state of the eye, and the texture of the cherry blossom all feel more vivid and lifelike. This next one is another style Hunyuan Image 3 claims to excel at: anime character sitting on a strawberry cake. The overall detail is fantastic. Notice the texture of the strawberries and the feel of the character. Now let's look at Qwen Image's performance. I think it is also excellent. I'd say they're about on par here. Both models produced impressive images. Moving on, we have a special style fusion, merging a mecha character with a real person. Here is Hunyuan Image 3's attempt. The skin texture looks a bit overdone, but the overall composition is very beautiful. Now, Qwen Image's version, I think it is also very beautiful, but personally, I still prefer the overall texture from Qwen. This next scene is a forest, goddess made of flowers and green vines. Her hair is a waterfall, her skin has a tree bark texture, and she is one with her natural surroundings. Let's look at Hunyuan's version. The compositional accuracy is there, no question, but I just don't find it beautiful. It lacks aesthetic appeal. The composition is indeed accurate hair as a waterfall, blending with the environment, bark-like skin, but it is just not pleasant to look at. Qwen's interpretation, however, is much more refined. The bark texture only appears on the neck and arms, preserving the human form. The vines have a subtle 3D quality, and the waterfall is rendered as a realistic stream of water, all within a photorealistic environment. Again, I think this image wins because of its excellent clarity and vibrancy. It feels beautiful, and the colors are stunning. In comparison, Hunyuan's just looks cluttered. Next, a spy movie poster featuring a female agent from the Republic of China era, wearing a cheongsam with a determined look in her eyes. Hunyuan's results are okay, not bad. And Qwen Image's performance is also quite good, very beautiful. This next scene is in a vector art style, featuring a model. We asked for bold lines and color blocks suitable for an illustration in a fashion magazine. The two images Hunyuan generated are, I would say, merely adequate, very conventional. Now let's see Qwen Image's version. I think this is gorgeous. The color composition and the number of colors used are much richer. Here we have a character from the ancient Chinese mythological text, the classic of mountains and seas, the nine-tailed fox. But this isn't the traditional version. She is a woman living in a modern city, but her nine tails are fully visible and have a neon texture. Hunyuan Image 3's result is quite good. The details are well executed. Now, for Qwen's version, I personally prefer Qwen's take because it looks clearer. This brings me back to my earlier point. If an image isn't clear and looks blurry, even if the generation quality is otherwise identical, we will naturally prefer the one with better clarity. Finally, let's test its reasoning ability. The prompt I gave was, "The dragon has 9 sons," which comes from a traditional Chinese saying that the dragon has 9 sons, and each is different. Let's see Hunyuan 3's performance. It roughly depicts dragons of different forms, which is quite on point, even if there aren't exactly 9 of them. Now, let's look at Qwen Image. It doesn't seem to understand the concept of the dragon has 9 sons. Instead, it just tried to generate 9 dragons. So, in terms of reasoning ability, it can't be compared to Hunyuan Image 3. After all, Hunyuan is an 80 billion parameter model that has been specifically trained on knowledge bases and reasoning tasks. Okay, so those were my tests across 22 different scenarios. In the vast majority of these cases, Qwen Image produced significantly better quality results. This brings us back to our initial topic. I think for an 80 billion parameter model to perform at this level, perhaps some more reflection is needed. I encourage you all to design your own prompts and test it out for yourselves. I also hope to see your discussions and feedback in the comment section. Alright, that is all for today. Follow me to become more AI savvy.